Aunt sent me a video of my family enjoying vacation without me. I didn't react. The calendar on my bedroom wall mocked me. I'd marked the date, June 15th, with a bright red circle and tiny Italian flags drawn around it. For 3 years, I'd been saving every penny from my weekend job at the bookstore, picking up extra shifts during holidays, and even selling my old gaming consoles online. All for this trip. Italy. The Colosseum, Venetian canals, authentic pizza in Naples. A dream our family had planned meticulously since I was 15. My suitcase sat by the door, already packed with summer clothes and a brand new camera, a graduation gift to myself. The passport I'd acquired especially for this occasion was tucked safely in my travel wallet, along with euros I'd exchanged at a terrible rate because I couldn't contain my excitement. I'd even downloaded an app to learn basic Italian phrases. Buongiorno.
Grazie.
Davi il bagno? Simple things I practiced in the shower every morning. Jamie, can I talk to you for a minute? Mom's voice came from downstairs, interrupting my final mental checklist of items. Coming, I shouted back, giving my luggage a proud pat before heading down. When I reached the kitchen, I knew something was wrong immediately. Mom sat at the table, shoulders slumped, hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had clearly gone cold. Dad wasn't home, which was weird because he'd taken the day off to prepare for our early morning flight tomorrow. Where's Dad? I asked, the first tingle of anxiety creeping up my spine. Mom looked up and I saw her red-rimmed eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she pushed a strand of graying hair behind her ear. Honey, sit down, she said, her voice cracking. My legs felt suddenly heavy as I pulled out a chair across from her. Something in her expression made my stomach knot. What's going on? Is everyone okay? My mind raced through terrible possibilities. Grandma had fallen again. My younger sister Zoe had gotten into an accident at soccer practice, something with my older brother Ryan. It's your father, Mom said, her voice barely above a whisper. He's been having chest pains for weeks. Yesterday, they got so bad we went to the ER. The kitchen seemed to shrink around me.
What?
Why didn't anyone tell me? We didn't want to worry you with finals and graduation, she explained, reaching for my hand across the table. Her fingers were cold. The doctors ran some tests. His heart, there's an issue they need to monitor. And the bills, Jamie. The insurance is only covering part of it, and with all these specialists. I felt a heaviness settle in my chest. But he's going to be okay, right? Mom nodded quickly, too quickly. Yes, of course. With proper care and monitoring. But honey. Her eyes welled up again. We have to cancel the trip. The words hung in the air between us. I felt my own eyes sting. The medical bills are draining our finances, she continued, her voice steadier now. We just can't justify the expense right now. The airline won't refund everything because it's so last minute, but we have to prioritize your father's health. My disappointment felt selfish in the face of Dad's health scare, but it crashed over me in waves nonetheless. 3 years of planning. My graduation celebration. Our first family trip overseas. So nobody's going? I asked, my voice small. Mom squeezed my hand. No, nobody's going. We'll be handling hospital stuff, follow-up appointments. Your dad needs rest. I nodded, fighting back tears. I understand. Dad's health comes first. We'll reschedule when things settle down, she promised, though her eyes didn't quite meet mine. Maybe next summer, when your father is better and we've sorted out the finances. I got up and hugged her tight, trying to ignore the flicker of doubt that passed through my mind when I felt her stiffen slightly in my embrace. Maybe she just felt guilty about crushing my dream trip. I should call Dad, I said, pulling away. Check how he's doing. He's resting at Aunt Carol's, Mom replied quickly. The doctor suggested a quiet environment for a few days. No stress, no excitement. We shouldn't disturb him. She stood up and busied herself at the sink. I know you're disappointed, sweetheart. We all are. That night, I unpacked my suitcase slowly, hanging each item back in my closet with deliberate care. The Italian phrase book went back on my shelf. The euros went into my desk drawer. I called Ryan, who was away at college, to check if he'd heard about Dad. His response seemed oddly rehearsed, echoing Mom's words about not wanting to worry me during finals. I cried myself to sleep that night, not just out of disappointment, but worry. Dad had always been the strongest person I knew, the one who taught me to ride a bike, who coached my debate team, who never missed a single school event. The thought of something being wrong with his heart terrified me. The next morning, the day we were supposed to leave, I woke to an eerily quiet house. Mom had left a note saying she had errands to run. Zoe was at a friend's house for a sleepover. The absence of departure excitement felt like a physical weight. I threw myself into productive distractions. I picked up extra shifts at the bookstore. I visited my grandmother, who strangely hadn't heard about Dad's heart problems when I mentioned them. I told myself she was getting forgetful. "Your parents and siblings stopped by yesterday," Grandma said as we played cards. They seemed in good spirits about something, but they were in such a rush they barely stayed for tea. I nodded absently, assuming they were busy with Dad's medical appointments. 3 days later, I got a text from Mom saying they'd be staying at Aunt Carol's for a while longer. "Dad needs the peace and quiet. The kids are with us to help out. We'll call soon. Love you." It struck me as odd that everyone was there except me, but I rationalized that someone needed to hold down the fort at home. Besides, I had my job. I couldn't just disappear for days. "You're being mature about this," my best friend Tessa said when I explained the situation over coffee. "I'd be furious about missing Italy. Family emergencies happen." I replied with a shrug I didn't entirely feel. "Health comes first." "True," Tessa nodded. "Though it's weird they didn't just postpone it, so everyone could go together later." Her comment lingered with me as I walked home, a tiny seed of question planted in my mind. But I pushed it away. My family wouldn't lie to me about something this serious. Would they? 1 week after we were supposed to leave for Italy, my phone pinged with a WhatsApp message. It was from Aunt Lisa, Mom's sister who lived in Europe and who we rarely heard from. There was no caption, just a video attachment. I tapped play, expecting perhaps a message of sympathy about our canceled plans. The tiny seed of doubt that had been dormant in my mind suddenly burst into full, terrible bloom. My phone's screen illuminated my darkened bedroom as the video began to play. The sound of waves crashing against a shore filled the silence, and then laughter. Familiar laughter I'd know anywhere. The camera panned across a pristine white sand beach, the water an impossible shade of turquoise that didn't look real. But it was real. And so were the people in the video. My family. All of them. A cold numbness spread through my chest as I watched Mom recline on a beach chair, oversized sunglasses perched on her nose, a fruity cocktail in her hand. She tipped her glass toward the camera with a carefree smile. "To spontaneity," she toasted. The camera swung to capture Zoe and Ryan building an elaborate sandcastle, arguing playfully about the placement of a shell. Then the image shifted again, and there was Dad. My supposedly ill father, whose heart condition had drained our finances and canceled our trip, was standing on the deck of a gleaming white yacht. His skin was already bronzed from the sun, his arms raised triumphantly above his head as he laughed. He looked healthier than I'd ever seen him. "Best decision we ever made," he shouted to the camera, flexing his bicep in a joking display of strength. "Santorini beats Italy any day." Santorini. Not Italy. Not a hospital. Greece. The video continued, showing my cousins Jake and Mia diving into crystal waters from the boat's edge. Aunt Carol, whose house Dad was supposedly recovering at, stretched out on the yacht's deck beside my mother, both women giggling like teenagers. My hands began to shake so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. I forced myself to keep watching as the camera turned to reveal Aunt Lisa behind it, her voice narrating, "Day 3 in paradise with the Andersons. Who says you can't plan the perfect getaway in just a week?" A week. The exact amount of time since Mom had told me about Dad's heart condition. The video ended with a group shot, everyone raising glasses in a toast, the spectacular Santorini sunset painting the sky behind them in vibrant oranges and pinks. My entire family, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, all there. Everyone except me. I sat frozen in the dark, the video's final frame still illuminating my face. I replayed it 3 times.
4.
Looking for some explanation, some clue that would make this make sense. There was none. My thumb hovered over the reply button. What would I even say? Hey, quick question. Why did you all lie about Dad being sick so you could vacation in Greece without me? Or maybe something more direct. So Dad's heart condition miraculously healed in time for yachting? But I didn't type anything. I didn't call. I didn't scream or throw my phone across the room, though every muscle in my body urged me to. Instead, I set my phone down on my nightstand with deliberate care, as if it might explode if handled too roughly. I lay back on my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling my heartbeat in my fingertips. The betrayal was so complete, so perfectly executed, that it felt almost impressive. They hadn't missed a single detail in their lie. The next morning, I got a frantic call from Aunt Lisa. "Jamie, oh my God, I'm so sorry," she blurted before I could even say hello. "I sent that video to the family group chat. I had no idea you weren't supposed to know. Your mom just called me in a complete panic." "Know what?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "That Dad's heart condition is best treated by Mediterranean sunshine?" The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. "They told you your dad was sick?" Her voice dropped to a horrified whisper. "And that our trip to Italy was canceled because of medical bills," I confirmed, surprised by how steady I sounded despite the storm raging inside me. Imagine my shock seeing everyone living it up in Santorini instead. "Jamie, she faltered. "I don't know what to say. When they showed up in Greece, they told me you couldn't come because of your job at the bookstore. That you'd chosen to stay behind to earn extra money for college." A bitter laugh escaped me. "That's what they told you? Interesting." "I'm so sorry," she repeated. "I would never have gone along with this if I'd known they'd lied to you like that." "It's not your fault," I said, meaning it. "You didn't know." After we hung up, I checked social media for the first time since receiving the video. I'd been avoiding it, focusing on work and summer reading. Now I understood why. My sister's Instagram was a chronicle of their Greek adventure. "Surprise family trip to Santorini," read her first post, dated exactly one day after Mom had told me our Italy plans were canceled. There were dozens of photos, cliffside restaurants in OIA, ATV rides across the island, boat tours around the caldera. In one particularly painful image, Dad knelt on one knee presenting Mom with a diamond bracelet. The caption read, "Dad surprising Mom for their anniversary. #best husband ever, #family first." Family first. The irony wasn't lost on me. Ryan's social media was more restrained, but even he had posted a family photo with the caption, "Unexpected adventures are the best kind." #Santorini 2023". Unexpected. For me, certainly. I closed the apps and stared out my window, a strange calm settling over me. I hadn't responded to the video, hadn't confronted anyone, hadn't given them the satisfaction of seeing my pain or forcing them to scramble for new lies. My silence, I realized, was unnerving them more than any angry outburst could have. Aunt Lisa's call confirmed it. Mom was in a complete panic about me finding out.
Good.
Let them panic. Let them wonder what I would do with this information. Let them speculate about my silence.
Because something had shifted inside me.
This wasn't just about a vacation anymore. It was about trust, respect, and the realization that the people who were supposed to love me most had conspired to exclude me from a family milestone, constructing an elaborate lie to do so. I picked up my phone and took a screenshot of the video's most damning frame, Dad on the yacht, carefree and healthy. I saved it to a new folder I created and named Evidence. I didn't know yet what I was gathering evidence for, but something told me this betrayal ran deeper than a single vacation. And I was right. 3 weeks after discovering my family's Greek deception, I was still maintaining radio silence. They'd returned from Santorini tanned and evasive, spinning a story about Dad's miraculous recovery and a spontaneous decision to celebrate with a small family trip. I nodded along, watching their eyes dart nervously as they gauged whether I believed them, whether Aunt Lisa had shown me the video. I gave them nothing. My focus had shifted to preparing for college. Boston University had accepted me months ago, my dream school for their journalism program. I'd been saving for it since I was 14, working every summer and holiday, putting away birthday and graduation money. My parents had promised to help with the rest. I was set to start in September, or so I thought. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was shelving books at work. "Hello, is this Jamie Anderson?" The voice was professionally pleasant. "Yes, this is she." "This is Marissa Wilson from Boston University's Financial Services Office. I'm calling because we haven't received your tuition payment for the fall semester, which was due last Friday." I nearly dropped the stack of novels I was holding. There must be some mistake. The payment should have gone through automatically from our family account. "I'm afraid there's no record of any payment attempt, Ms. Anderson. Your status is currently listed as delinquent, which means your class registration is on hold." My heart raced. "Can you check again?" "The account is under Richard Anderson, my father. He handles all the financial arrangements." "I've already checked thoroughly. No payment has been submitted or even initiated." After promising to resolve the issue immediately, I hung up and leaned against the bookshelf, my mind spinning. Dad was meticulous about financial matters. This wasn't an oversight. That evening, I sat at my desk and logged into our family's shared bank account, the one where my college fund had been growing for years. Dad had set it up when I was 14, teaching me about saving and compound interest. I'd watched the balance climb steadily from my initial deposit of $237, my entire savings at the time, to over $42,000 by graduation, my portion of tuition money. But when the page loaded, my stomach dropped. Balance, $127.36. I stared at the screen, blinking hard, certain I'd made some error. I hadn't. The money was gone. All of it. With trembling fingers, I clicked on the transaction history. There it was, a series of withdrawals over the past 2 months, culminating in a final large transfer just days before they'd left for Greece. The destination? My mother's personal account. The timestamp on the final transfer, June 8th, 11:42 a.m. The exact day Mom had sat me down with her tearful story about Dad's non-existent heart condition. The room seemed to tilt around me. They hadn't just lied to me about a vacation. They had stolen my college fund, money I had earned and saved, to finance their luxury trip to Santorini. I printed the bank statements, highlighting the transfers, and added them to my evidence folder. Then I did something I'd never done before. I called the university's financial aid office directly. "Hello, this is Jamie Anderson. I'm an incoming freshman, and I've just discovered that my college fund has been compromised." I chose my words carefully. "I need to understand my options." The woman on the other end was kind but firm. "Without immediate payment, you'll lose your place, Ms. Anderson. We have a waiting list of students eager to attend." "What if I apply for emergency loans?" "That's possible, but you'd need a cosigner with good credit, and the process takes weeks." I closed my eyes, thinking of the options. My parents would be the logical cosigners, but that was clearly not happening. What about scholarships? Late applications? "Most deadlines passed months ago," she explained. "But there's one emergency hardship scholarship that might apply to your situation. It requires documentation of your circumstances." Documentation. Evidence. The folder on my desk suddenly felt heavier. "I can provide that," I said quietly. That night, as I tried to sleep, my phone buzzed with texts from my mother. "Mom, hey sweetie, the university called about some payment issue? Dad's handling it, don't worry." "Mom, must be a mix-up with the accounts." "Mom, we'd never let anything interfere with your education, you know that." I read the messages without responding. The casual deception was almost impressive. I wondered if lying had always come this easily to her, or if it was a skill she developed over time. The next morning, I went to the bank. I brought my ID, social security card, and birth certificate, everything I'd need to open my own account. The manager, Mr. Sullivan, had known me since I was a child. His daughter and I had played soccer together. "Jamie, what can I do for you today?" he asked warmly. "I need information about an account," I said, sliding the printed statements across his desk. "I'd like to understand exactly what happened to my college fund." His expression turned serious as he reviewed the papers. These are significant withdrawals. Are you aware of them?
No.
That's what I'm trying to understand. He typed something into his computer, frowning at the screen. The account was set up as a custodial account in your name, with your father as the custodian. Legally, that money was designated for your benefit. So, he wasn't supposed to withdraw it for other purposes? Mr. Sullivan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. The custodian has a fiduciary responsibility to manage the funds in the beneficiary's best interest. If these funds were not used for your education, medical needs, or other direct benefits to you. He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. That would be misappropriation. I finished for him. His silence was confirmation enough. What are my options? I asked. You could file a report. The bank has records of all transactions, including ATM camera footage for cash withdrawals. I thought about what that would mean, potentially reporting my own parents for theft. The idea made me sick, yet something inside me had hardened since seeing that video. This wasn't just about a vacation anymore. This was about my future. I'd like copies of all records related to these transactions, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. And I want to open a new account, in my name only. As I left the bank with a folder full of transaction records and ATM photos showing my father making the withdrawals, my phone buzzed again. Dad, Jamie, don't worry about this tuition business. Just a misunderstanding with the bank. We'll sort it out. I put the phone away without answering. Let them keep spinning their stories. I was done listening. Back in my room, I added the bank documents to my growing evidence folder and opened my laptop. I had research to do about custodial accounts, about financial aid options, about what constituted financial fraud, and about what to do when the people who were supposed to protect you became the ones you needed protection from. 2 days after discovering my emptied college fund, I decided it was time for a direct approach. No more silence. No more pretending I didn't know. I waited until evening when both my parents would be home, then walked downstairs with calculated composure. Mom was chopping vegetables for dinner, and Dad sat at the kitchen island scrolling through his phone. They both looked up when I entered, their expressions shifting subtly. Dad's eyes narrowed with wariness, Mom's smile a touch too bright. Hey, kiddo, Dad said, putting his phone down. Everything okay? No, I replied evenly. Boston University called. My tuition hasn't been paid. The glance my parents exchanged lasted only a fraction of a second, but it contained volumes. A silent conversation, a rapid recalibration of whatever story they'd prepared. About that, Dad cleared his throat. There's been a mix-up with the accounts. I've been on the phone with the bank all day trying to sort out. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Really? What kind of mix-up? Just some temporary holds, he said vaguely. Nothing to worry about. That's interesting, I said, because I checked the account yesterday. There's no money left to put a hold on. The kitchen fell silent except for the rhythmic chopping of Mom's knife, which had slowed considerably. Jamie, Mom interjected, her voice gentle but strained. These financial matters are complicated. Your father is handling it. Is he? I stepped further into the kitchen. The same way he handled his heart condition in Santorini? The knife clattered against the cutting board. My mother's face drained of color. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. I think you do. I pulled out my phone, opened WhatsApp, and played Aunt Lisa's video, with the volume turned up. The sound of waves and laughter filled the tense kitchen. Dad's face hardened. Lisa had no right to send you that. Actually, she thought I already knew, because you told her I chose not to come. I put my phone away, just like you told Grandma you were all in good spirits before rushing off to your medical appointments. Mom stepped away from the counter, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Jamie, we can explain. Please do, I interrupted. Explain how Dad's heart problem disappeared just in time for yachting. Explain why my college fund is empty. Explain why you lied to me about canceling our trip, only to take a more expensive one without me. You're being dramatic, Dad said dismissively. We had some unexpected expenses, that's all. Your tuition will be paid. With what money? I challenged. The $42,000 you transferred to Mom's account the same day you told me about Dad's imaginary heart condition? A flash of panic crossed his face. You've been snooping through our accounts? My account, I corrected. The custodial account in my name. The one Mr. Sullivan at the bank tells me you had a fiduciary responsibility to manage for my benefit, not for Mediterranean cruises. Mom moved toward me, hands outstretched. Honey, we were going to replace that money. It was just a temporary loan. I finished for her. Is that what you call it when you take someone's savings without their knowledge or consent? Don't you dare speak to your mother that way, Dad snapped, standing up. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. Besides steal my college fund and leave me behind while the rest of the family went on vacation? We're still your parents, Mom said, her voice quivering with emotion that once would have made me back down immediately. You're being ungrateful. There it was. The accusation designed to make me feel small, to shift the blame. And maybe 2 months ago it would have worked.
But not now.
Ungrateful. I repeated. For what? The lies? The theft? Or just the comprehensive betrayal of trust? Dad slammed his hand on the counter. That's enough. You're imagining things. You're misunderstanding the bank statements. The absurdity of his denial in the face of such clear evidence almost made me laugh. Am I imagining the video too? Am I imagining that my tuition hasn't been paid? That my account is empty? We were protecting you, Mom insisted. We didn't want you to feel bad about not being able to go. So, you pretended Dad was sick? That's your idea of protection. The trip was adults only anyway, she continued, switching tactics. The resort wouldn't have been fun for someone your age. I pulled out my phone again and opened Instagram. Funny, because Zoe's posts show her and Ryan having a great time. Last I checked, they're both younger than me. Mom's face crumpled slightly before hardening again. Zoe's posts are private. Not to her friends, I replied. And Tessa follows her. Just then, the front door opened and closed. Zoe breezed into the kitchen, gym bag slung over her shoulder, hair still damp from swim practice. Hey, what's for din? She stopped short, sensing the tension. What's going on? We're discussing Santorini, I said coolly. I especially enjoyed your post about the private villa. You mentioned the infinity pool. What? 15 times. Zoe's eyes widened as she looked from me to our parents. You told me she knew. You said she couldn't come because of her job. Zoe, go to your room, Dad ordered. No, stay, I countered. I'd love to hear what else they told you. Zoe hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. They said you chose to stay behind for work, that you needed the money for extra college expenses. And you didn't find it strange that I never mentioned this decision? That no one discussed it with me? She faltered. I guess I didn't think about it. Convenient, I remarked. Just like it's convenient that no one thought about what would happen to my college plans when my tuition money vanished. This is ridiculous, Dad growled. We've never done anything but support you. One vacation doesn't change that. This isn't about the vacation, I said. It's about the calculated deception.
The theft.
The complete disregard for my future. We've heard enough, Mom cut in. Go to your room while your father and I discuss this like adults. I stood my ground. I am an adult, and I'd like an explanation for why my college fund is gone. Things have been tight financially, Dad admitted grudgingly. We needed a buffer. It's temporary. A buffer? You spent $40,000 on a luxury vacation as a buffer? Business has been down, he insisted. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. The trip was partially for networking. Each excuse was more transparently false than the last. I wondered if they actually believed what they were saying, or if lying had simply become their default mode of communication. I'm going to ask you one more time, I said, my voice low and controlled. Where is my money? How are you planning to pay my tuition? Mom and Dad exchanged another glance, this one longer and heavier with unspoken communication. We'll figure something out, Mom finally said. We always do. And in that moment I knew there was no plan. There was no solution waiting in the wings. They'd spent my future on their present pleasures, and they had no intention of making it right. I turned to leave, but Dad's voice stopped me. Jamie, don't make this bigger than it is. You're imagining a conspiracy where there's just a temporary financial hiccup. I looked back at them. My mother's practiced concern, my father's defensive posture, my sister's genuine confusion. The perfect picture of a family if you didn't look too closely at the cracks. I'm not imagining anything, I said quietly. And I think you know that. As I walked back to my room, I heard their hushed, urgent voices resume behind me. I didn't bother trying to make out the words. I already knew they'd be spinning new lies, constructing new defenses. But I wasn't playing their game anymore. I had evidence. I had truth. And most importantly, I had clarity. The web of lies they'd woven was impressive in its complexity. But like all webs, it had a purpose: to trap and immobilize its prey. I refused to be their prey any longer. In the days following my confrontation with my parents, the atmosphere in our house turned glacial. They attempted different approaches. Dad opted for stony silence, Mom tried tearful pleas, and Zoe vacillated between awkward apologies and defensive justifications. I remained polite but distant, focused on what I now considered my secret mission: building an airtight case. I started methodically, creating a timeline of events on my laptop, password protected, and backed up to a cloud account they couldn't access. I pinned each lie chronologically, connecting dots that revealed a pattern of deception stretching back further than I'd initially realized. My first step was financial. I installed the banking app on my phone and set up alerts for any activity on the remains of my account. Then I requested copies of all statements from the past 3 years. What I discovered was chilling. This wasn't the first borrowing incident. Small withdrawals peppered a history, though nothing as substantial as the final Santorini heist. They've been siphoning money for years, I muttered to myself, highlighting suspicious transactions dating back to when I was 16. A weekend when they came back with new golf clubs. A spontaneous business trip to Aspen during ski season. Each time, a chunk of my savings disappeared, though small enough that I hadn't noticed amid the steady growth of deposits from my jobs. But financial records weren't enough. I needed to document the lies themselves. I created a new email address they knew nothing about and reached out to Aunt Lisa. I'm trying to make sense of what happened, I wrote. Would you be willing to share any other photos or videos from the trip? Anything that might help me understand. Her response came within hours, laden with guilt and eagerness to help. Jamie, I feel terrible about my role in this. I had no idea they'd lied to you so completely. I'm attaching everything I have from the trip. Let me know if you need anything else. The attachments were a gold mine, dozens of photos and videos documenting their 10-day Mediterranean escape. Dad parasailing despite his heart condition. Mom getting a massage at what was clearly a high-end resort spa. A receipt Lisa had photographed showing a €1,200 dinner bill for one night, approximately the cost of one of my textbooks for the upcoming semester. I saved everything, organizing it meticulously in folders. Then, I did something that still makes me uncomfortable to recall. I went through their rooms while they were out. In Mom's desk drawer, I found receipts she'd kept from the trip. A printed itinerary showing they'd booked the vacation a full month before telling me it was canceled. Credit card statements revealing they'd paid for premium airfare upgrades, private villa accommodations, and even shopping sprees at luxury boutiques. In Dad's office, I discovered something even more damning. Draft emails to his business partner discussing the trip weeks in advance, joking about making it a family excursion -1 to keep costs manageable. There was no mention of any networking or business purposes. I photographed everything, careful to leave no trace of my search, and added it to my digital archive. My next target was social media. I created a fake profile to view my family's posts without them knowing I was looking. Ryan's Twitter revealed complaints about having to keep secrets and a crude joke about what Jamie doesn't know won't hurt her. Zoe's Instagram stories, archived but still accessible, showed a countdown to Operation Santorini that began 3 weeks before they told me the Italy trip was canceled. Even extended family members had been part of the deception. Uncle Mark had posted a family photo with a caption, "Anderson Greek getaway, minus Jamie, who's adulting like a boss back home." Cousin Mia had shared a TikTok of everyone doing shots on the yacht with the hashtag family secrets are the best secrets. They hadn't just excluded me. They'd made my exclusion a running joke. Throughout this process, I maintained my outward composure. I went to work, made dinner when it was my turn, and responded to texts with brief, neutral replies. I even sat through a family movie night, watching my parents exchange anxious glances whenever they thought I wasn't looking. 2 weeks into my investigation, I received an unexpected ally in the form of Mr. Peters, the university financial aid counselor I'd been assigned. "Your application for emergency hardship funds is compelling," he said during our phone call. "But we need formal documentation of the, misappropriation you've described." "What kind of documentation?" "A police report would be most effective," he said carefully. "Or documentation of a formal complaint filed with the relevant financial institution." I swallowed hard. That would mean legally accusing my parents. "Yes," he acknowledged. "That's often the most difficult aspect in cases like yours. Many students find themselves unable to take that step." "What happens to those students?" His pause spoke volumes. "Many defer enrollment. Some never return." After we hung up, I stared at my evidence folder for a long time. Then I made a decision that changed everything. I called the bank's fraud department and formally reported the unauthorized withdrawals from my custodial account. "I'd like to file a complaint," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Under my own name." The representative walked me through the process professionally, explaining that they would investigate and might involve law enforcement if they found sufficient evidence of wrongdoing. I agreed to everything, electronically signing the necessary documents. The day after filing the complaint, I received a text from Aunt Lisa that made my heart race. "Your mother just called me in tears. Said you've reported them to the bank? Jamie, are you sure about this? They're saying it's all a misunderstanding." I responded carefully. "If it's a misunderstanding, the investigation will clear that up. I'm just trying to recover my college fund." Her reply came quickly. "I support you, whatever you decide. And I have more information that might help if you need it." "What kind of information?" I asked. "Your father asked me to transfer him money just before the trip, said it was for a surprise for your mother. I sent 5,000 euros. Then I saw them using that money for excursions everyone enjoyed. I still have the transfer records and conversations. Would that help?" I felt a surge of gratitude. "Yes, that would help a lot. Thank you for being honest with me." Later that day, I contacted a lawyer, not just any lawyer, but Meredith Jansen, a friend's mother who specialized in family financial disputes. I'd been saving her number since the day at the bank. "I need advice," I told her, "about recovering misappropriated funds from a custodial account." "Custodial account?" she repeated. "That's straightforward legally, but complicated emotionally. Are you prepared for what this might mean for your family relationships?" I thought about the web of lies, the casual theft of my future, the way they'd made my exclusion a family punchline. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm prepared." By the end of the month, my evidence folder had grown to include bank records, social media posts, emails, texts, video clips, travel receipts, witness statements from Aunt Lisa and 2 other relatives who'd come forward after hearing about my investigation, and official documentation from the university about my enrollment status and financial requirements. It wasn't just a collection of grievances anymore. It was a case. A real, legally actionable case against the people who should have protected me, but instead had treated my future as an ATM for their luxury lifestyle. As I finalized the organization of my evidence, preparing for what would come next, I received an unexpected text from Ryan. "Hey, heard from Dad you're causing drama about money. Grow up, sis. Parents have given us everything." I stared at the message, a strange calm settling over me. They still didn't understand. This wasn't about a vacation or even just about money. This was about truth, about consequences, about refusing to be gaslit into accepting theft and betrayal as normal family dynamics. I saved his text as one final piece of evidence, then closed my laptop. The investigation phase was complete. Now it was time for the reckoning. The invitation to Ryan's birthday dinner arrived via group text 3 days after I completed my case file. My brother was turning 21, and Mom had reserved the private room at Bellini's, his favorite Italian restaurant. Family only, the text specified, to celebrate our extraordinary son. I replied with a simple thumbs-up emoji, already calculating how perfect the timing was. The whole family would be there: parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone who had participated in or witnessed the deception. Everyone who needed to hear the truth. That morning, I drove to a copy shop and printed multiple sets of key documents from my evidence folder: bank statements with highlighted transfers, screenshots of social media posts mocking my absence, email exchanges planning the trip a month before its cancellation, and the formal complaint I'd filed with the bank. I organized each set into manila envelopes, writing names in neat black marker on the front. 15 envelopes in total, one for each family member who would be at dinner. While the documents printed, I composed a letter. Not an angry tirade, but a clear, factual accounting of what had happened and how it had affected my future. I described the theft of my college fund, the elaborate lies, and the casual cruelty of making my exclusion a family joke. I ended with a simple question: was it worth it? I made copies of this letter too, placing one at the front of each envelope. That evening, I dressed with deliberate care: a simple black dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. I wanted to look composed, dignified, not the hysterical, ungrateful child they'd made me out to be. When I arrived at Bellini's, most of the family was already seated around the long table in the private dining room. Conversations hushed briefly as I entered, then resumed with forced cheerfulness. I caught a flash of anxiety in Mom's eyes as she watched me take my seat at the far end of the table. "Jamie, you made it," Ryan called from the head of the table, raising his legal at-last glass of wine. "Thought you might be too busy with your situation." A few awkward chuckles rippled through the room. "I wouldn't miss it," I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "After all, family comes first, right, Mom?" Her laugh sounded brittle. "Absolutely. Now let's order before your brother drinks the restaurant dry on his first legal night." The dinner proceeded with superficial normality. Plates of pasta arrived, wine flowed, and conversation drifted between safe topics: Ryan's internship, Cousin Mia's new boyfriend, Uncle Mark's golf handicap. No one mentioned Santorini or my college fund. The elephant in the room remained politely ignored. After the main course, as servers cleared plates and prepared for dessert, I stood up and reached for the tote bag at my feet. "Before we get to the cake, I have something for everyone," I announced, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "A belated souvenir, you might say." Dad's eyes narrowed. "Jamie, this is your brother's birthday. Let's not make this about." "About what, Dad?" I asked calmly. "About how you stole my college fund to take the family on a luxury vacation without me. About how you've been embezzling from my account for years." A stunned silence fell over the table. Aunt Carol gasped. Grandma put down her wine glass with a sharp clink. "That's enough," Mom hissed. "This is neither the time nor the place." "Actually, it's exactly the right time and place," I replied, beginning to move around the table, placing an envelope in front of each family member. With everyone who participated in or witnessed the lies gathered in one room. "What is this?" Grandma asked, picking up her envelope. "Evidence," I explained, continuing my circuit of the table. "Bank statements showing the transfers from my college fund to Mom's personal account. Social media posts from the trip. The travel itinerary booked a month before you told me Dad was too sick to travel." Ryan stood up abruptly. "This is insane. Mom, Dad, are you going to let her ruin my birthday with this drama?" "It's not drama, Ryan. It's documentation." I placed the last envelope, his directly in front of him. "Including your Twitter post joking that what Jamie doesn't know won't hurt her. Quite the comedian, aren't you?" Relatives were opening their envelopes now, murmurs of shock rippling around the table as they examined the contents. Aunt Carol covered her mouth with her hand. Uncle Mark's face flushed red. Cousin Mia stared at the floor. Dad stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is a private family matter that you've chosen to make public. That's incredibly immature. No. What's immature is stealing from your child to finance a family vacation, I countered. What's immature is constructing elaborate lies instead of having an honest conversation. We were going to pay it back, Mom insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. When? I asked. My tuition was due 3 weeks ago. I've had to apply for emergency hardship funding and take out high-interest loans because of what you did. You're exaggerating the situation, Dad said, but his voice faltered as Grandma held up the bank statement from her envelope. Richard, these transfers are from Jamie's account, she said, her voice tight with disapproval. The account you set up for her college education. And look at these, Aunt Lisa added, holding up printed screenshots. Planning the trip weeks in advance while telling Jamie it was canceled? One by one, family members turned to my parents with questions, expressions ranging from confusion to outright condemnation. The unified front of family secrecy was crumbling before my eyes. I have one question for all of you, I said, my voice cutting through the growing chatter. Was it worth it? Was the yacht, the private villa, the expensive dinners worth destroying my trust and compromising my education? No one answered. Some looked away in shame. Others studied the evidence more closely. Dad stared at me with a mixture of anger and something that might have been grudging respect. I've filed a formal complaint with the bank. I continued into the silence. They're investigating the unauthorized withdrawals from my custodial account. I've also reported the situation to the university financial aid office. You reported us? Mom's voice was barely audible. Your own parents? Yes, I replied simply. Because you left me no choice. With that, I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. I'd said what I needed to say. The evidence would speak for itself now. Jamie, wait, Ryan called, standing up. For the first time, he looked uncertain. I didn't realize. I thought you knew and just couldn't come. That's the problem, I said, pausing at the door. None of you bothered to ask. None of you thought about what this would do to me. I walked out without another word, into the cool evening air that felt somehow cleaner than the atmosphere inside. Behind me, I could hear the buzz of shocked conversations resuming, questions being asked, accounts being demanded. As I drove home, a strange lightness filled me. I'd done it. I'd faced them all and spoken my truth without breaking down, without letting them twist the narrative. A week later, I received notification from the university that my tuition had been paid in full. The payment was anonymous, but I knew. The bank investigation had made its point. My parents, or perhaps a sympathetic grandparent or aunt, had found the money somewhere. But it was too late for that to fix anything between us. I'd already signed a lease on a small apartment near campus, using the emergency funds I'd qualified for to cover the security deposit. I'd moved my essential belongings out of the house while my family was at work and school, leaving behind a note with my new contact information. Not for reconciliation, but for any remaining practical matters that needed resolution. As I unpacked in my tiny studio, arranging my books on makeshift shelves and pinning photos of friends, real friends, to the wall, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. The betrayal still hurt. The lies still stung. But I'd stood up for myself in a way I never had before. Some might say I lost a family that day at Bellini's. Perhaps I did. But I gained something far more valuable, the unwavering knowledge that I deserved better than what they'd offered me. The clarity to recognize when relationships weren't worth saving. The strength to walk away from people who treated me as an afterthought rather than a priority. And as I hung the last photo, me and Tessa at graduation, arms around each other, futures bright with promise, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I would never look back.